So you're in B2B growth, right? And does everything just feel harder lately? A lot less predictable? Well, you're not imagining things. Today, we are going to tear down exactly why that old B2B growth playbook is broken. And, way more importantly, what's taking its place.
And this right here is the big idea we're going to unpack. For the last, 2 decades, we've been obsessed with optimizing channels, tweaking our ads, getting our SEO just right. But what if we've been playing the wrong game this whole time? The market has fundamentally transformed, and the real challenge and the real opportunity is in designing the entire system.
Okay, let's dive right in. To really get where we're going, we first have to be crystal clear on why the old way of doing things, that traditional demand gen model built on predictable funnels and clear attribution, is completely failing us now. It's all based on a set of assumptions that have just crumbled to dust. For years, we lived and died by the funnel. The idea was simple, right? Buyers moved in this nice, neat, linear path from awareness to consideration to purchase. And we thought we could just watch them do it. It was a really comforting model, and it was also completely wrong. The reality, according to McKinsey, looks a lot more like this: 10 channels. Buyers are not in a funnel anymore. They're in this complex, sprawling, networked ecosystem. They're bouncing between peer reviews, social media, AI chats, community forums, and you know what? Most of those touch points are completely invisible to our marketing stacks. All right, so the second pillar holding up the old model was this belief that we controlled the front door. If a buyer was looking for a solution like ours, they'd start with a Google search or see one of our paid ads. Marketing, we believed, owned the starting line. Well, guess what? That front door has moved. Now, an absolutely incredible 87% of B2B buyers are using AI chatbots to research vendors. Just think about that. They're forming shortlists, they're comparing options, they're developing really strong preferences before they ever even think about clicking on your website. Discovery is now mediated by AI. And that brings us to the final and maybe biggest broken assumption: the holy grail of traditional marketing: attribution. We truly believed that if we just had enough tracking, enough code, we could point to a deal and say with certainty, yep, that ad or that blog post, that's what drove this. This 70% number, this is a total game changer. It means that the most influential moments, the real conversion events, are happening in places we can't see, let alone track. They're happening in private Slack channels, in peer groups, in those AI conversations. The game is being won or lost before we even know a prospect is in the market. So look, these broken assumptions, they don't just cause little problems. They lead to these 5 massive systemic failures. We get channel blindness, where we have no clue how our podcast is influencing what people search for on Google. Our org chart is stuck in the past, so sales and marketing are operating on different planets. And critically, we're staring down this huge AI visibility gap. If AI can't find and understand you, you're basically becoming invisible to your buyers. So, what happened? What caused this massive breakdown? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was a perfect storm of converging forces that permanently, fundamentally altered the B2B landscape. And right in the middle of that storm, you guessed it, artificial intelligence. You had AI suddenly become the new front door for all research. At the exact same time, privacy changes came in and basically demolished old school tracking. The big shift to digital buying that we saw became permanent. And all the while, economic pressure meant that just being busy wasn't good enough anymore. Companies needed real, system-level efficiency. These 4 forces didn't just break the old model, they created the absolute necessity for a new one. Trying to rely on single channels in today's environment, it's like trying to navigate a hurricane with a single sail. It's just not going to work. So where do we go from here? We have to shift our thinking entirely, away from isolated channels and towards integrated systems. And this is what we're talking about: a demand system. Now, let's be really clear. This is not just a fancy new name for demand generation. It is a fundamentally different way of thinking. Instead of managing separate channels, it orchestrates them. Instead of just focusing on activity, it's enabled by intelligence. It treats everything you do as part of one unified system, all aimed at a single goal: predictable revenue. So, this slide right here, this is everything. This is the fundamental shift in thinking we have to make. We have to stop asking the old mechanistic question, which channel gets the credit for this deal? That question is basically meaningless now. The new and far more powerful question is this: how do we create the conditions within our system that make our ideal outcome, a signed deal,
more likely to happen. It's a huge shift from linear attribution to probabilistic influence.
So, what does this architecture actually look like? This isn't just a concept, it's a concrete framework. It's built on 5 interconnected engines that all have to work together to drive real growth. Okay, let's break this down because this is the heart of the solution. First, you have the intent intelligence engine. Think of this as the system's brain. It pulls in all those scattered buyer signals and turns them into predictive insight. That insight feeds the narrative coherence engine, which makes sure your brand story is consistent and clear, whether a human is reading your site or an AI is summarizing it. That consistent story then lets the experience orchestration engine design smart, adaptive journeys for your buyers. Now, all that complexity is translated by the revenue intelligence engine into language the CFO understands, proving the system's value. And finally, the commercial activation engine makes sure all that hard work actually gets converted by sales. See, they're not separate functions. They're an interconnected, compounding system. This new reality, it demands a completely new type of leader. The skills that got us here, they're not the skills that are going to get us to the next level. The mandate for every single B2B marketing leader has fundamentally changed. This phrase captures the shift perfectly. The CMO isn't just the chief storyteller anymore. In this new world, the winning CMO has to also be the chief systems architect, the person designing, building, and constantly optimizing the entire revenue engine. So what does this mean you actually have to do? Well, it means you have to become obsessed with how you show up in AI search results. It means investing in data and intelligence infrastructure, not just buying more software for the MarTech stack. It means totally reorganizing your teams around outcomes, not siloed functions. You've got to learn to speak the language of probabilistic forecasting. And you have to build strategies to engage that entire ever-expanding buying committee, not just your one favorite champion. Look, the writing is on the wall. The market has shifted, and it's shifted permanently. The old models are giving us diminishing returns, while this new, systems-based approach is creating compounding advantages for those who adopt it. This transition, it's not easy, but it is absolutely inevitable. So the only question that really matters now is how quickly can you begin?